Our story takes place in a sun-drenched meadow nestled at the edge of a great, whispering wood. In this world lived two creatures who, though they shared the same sunlight and the same blades of grass, saw their world in completely different ways. One was a grasshopper. He was a poet, a musician, a philosopher of the easy life. He was a brilliant emerald green, with wings that, when he rubbed them together, produced the most enchanting music the meadow had ever heard. His days were a symphony of simple pleasures. He would wake with the sun, watch the clouds drift by, imagining they were great white ships sailing on a blue sea. He'd leap from a daisy to a clover, just to feel the wind in his face. The other creature was an ant. Her name was Terra. She was a small, dark, industrious thing. Her world was not one of idle fancy, but of purpose. Her world was the nest, a vast, hidden city beneath a large, moss-covered stone. She was a member of a long, silent line of workers whose mission was the survival of their colony. Her world was measured in grains and the weight of a seed. On this particular morning, the meadow was at its peak. It was the kind of day that made you believe summer would last forever. The grasshopper was, as usual, in the middle of it all. He had found the perfect stage, a large, flat toadstool in a sunny patch. He was composing a new piece. It was a celebration of the day itself. He was so lost in his music, his eyes were half closed in bliss. When he finally opened his eyes, he saw a long, unbroken line of ants, each one carrying a burden that seemed far too big for its tiny body. Leading this particular section of the line was Terra. She was struggling with a particularly large barley grain, 3 times her own size, her legs strained with the effort. The grasshopper hopped off his toadstool and landed gracefully right in the middle of their path, blocking the way. "Well, well, well," the grasshopper exclaimed, bowing theatrically. "If it isn't the workers of the world. Terra, my love, you look exhausted. Put that thing down and listen to this. I've just composed a masterpiece." The ant didn't put the grain down. She just shifted its weight. "I can hear you," she said flatly. "You're not exactly quiet." The grasshopper laughed. "Ah, you were listening. Then you know. You know the joy. Tell me, can you feel the rhythm of the day in that lump of whatever you're dragging?" "I feel the rhythm of the sun on my back," the ant replied. "And I know that the days are getting shorter. That's the only rhythm that matters." "Shorter?" the grasshopper scoffed, gesturing at the brilliant blue sky. "Look at this sky. Feel this sun. There's no winter here. There's more food in the meadow than 1,000 of us could eat. Why store it? Why not live a little?" "We live in a world of certainty, grasshopper," she said. "We know the sun will set. We know the seasons will turn. We prepare for what we know is coming. You live in a world of hope. You hope the sun will never set. You hope winter will never come. I prefer certainty." With a great heave, she maneuvered around him, and the silent line followed, flowing around his green legs like a dark river around a stone. The grasshopper watched them go, shaking his head with pity. "Poor souls," he murmured, "blinded by work. They cannot see the beauty right in front of them." He hopped back onto his toadstool and began to play again, louder this time, as if to drown out the memory of their grim procession. He played for the butterflies, who danced for him. He played for the bees, who buzzed in appreciation. He was the heart of the meadow. And so the weeks went on. The work for the ants became more frantic. The seeds were drier, easier to carry, but the distances to find them grew longer. Up before dawn, travel to the harvest fields, cut, carry, deposit, and go again. The grasshopper, meanwhile, had evolved from a musician into a patron of the arts. He'd organize festivals. He'd hop from flower to flower, critiquing the hummingbird's hovering technique and complimenting the spider on the delicate architecture of its web. He saw the ants' frenzied activity as a sad, comical ballet. He'd sometimes do an exaggerated imitation of them, marching in place and pretending to strain under an invisible load, making the younger crickets giggle. One afternoon, the air changed. A cool breeze drifted down from the mountains. The ant felt it on her antennae, and her pace quickened. The urgency in the nest was palpable. The entrance was a flurry of activity. That evening, the grasshopper held his greatest concert yet, to be held on the largest rock in the meadow as the sun set. He practiced all day, his music more beautiful than ever. The audience gathered, a choir of crickets, a troop of performing ladybugs, a small but appreciative group of moths. As the grasshopper struck the first, perfect note, a single, fat drop of water landed on his head. He looked up. The sky, which moments ago had been a beautiful orange and pink, had turned dark. Another drop fell. Then another. The audience scattered. The wind picked up, flattening the grass. A cold, hard rain began to fall, washing away the music, washing away the gala, washing away the summer. The grasshopper scrambled for cover, diving under a broad leaf. He shivered, not just from the cold, but from a feeling he had never felt before. Fear. The rain didn't stop for 2 days. When it finally cleared, the meadow was a different place. The grasshopper woke up stiff and cold. His beautiful green body felt dull. He tried to chirp, but the sound that came out was a weak, pathetic squeak. He was hungry, ravenous. He looked for a dewdrop to drink, but found only ice. He looked for a tender shoot of grass, but everything was dead and frozen. Days passed. The grasshopper grew weaker. He huddled in the hollow of a rotting log, his music a forgotten memory. He watched his breath turn to mist in the air and thought of the warm summer days. He thought of the ants. He thought of their certainty. One desperate morning, driven by a hunger that was a constant, gnawing pain, he made a journey. He followed the edge of the meadow to the large, moss-covered stone. He found the small, perfectly round entrance to the ant colony. He stood there for a long time, shivering, his pride warring with his need. Finally, his need won. He leaned down towards the dark hole. Hello, his voice was a croak. Is anyone there? A few moments later, 2 antennae poked out, tasting the air. Then a small, dark head appeared. Terra, he whispered, I was wrong. You were right. I have nothing. I have no food. I have no shelter. I have nothing. He looked at the dark hole, a place of warmth and security he couldn't even imagine. Please, he said, his voice breaking. Can you spare a grain? Just one? I am so very hungry. The ant looked at him for a long, silent moment. She saw not the vibrant poet of the summer, but a cold, hungry creature. She remembered his music. She remembered his laughter. She remembered his mockery. She thought of her own long summer of labor, of the countless seeds she had carried so that her family might live. We worked, she said, her voice quiet but clear in the cold air. All summer long while you sang, we worked. We stored this food, grain by grain, so that when the cold came, we would survive. We prepared for this day. This is our food, she said simply. It is for us. She turned her back on him and disappeared into the hole. The grasshopper stood there for a long time, alone in the cold. He looked at the tiny dark entrance, a gateway to a world he had never understood. He had traded a summer of joy for a winter of despair. He had bet everything on the sun, and the sun had set. And so, the story reminds us that while it is wonderful to sing and dance and enjoy the beautiful days, we must also remember the value of a single grain of corn, carried home on a summer's day, to wait for the cold. The moral is, it is best to prepare for the days of necessity. So now let's take a deeper look at the financial wisdom hidden within this simple tale. Lesson 1. The principle of delayed gratification. This is the foundation of all financial success. The grasshopper's entire philosophy was built on immediate pleasure. He lived in the present tense, unable or unwilling to trade a moment of current pleasure for a future benefit. The ant chose to experience the pain of work in the present, so she could enjoy the pleasure of survival in the future. This is the essence of delayed gratification. Enduring discomfort now to avoid a much larger catastrophe, or to enjoy a much greater reward later. Today, delayed gratification is very hard. There are messages that tell us we deserve a break, we deserve a treat, and we should have it all now. And the grasshopper in us says, buy it, you deserve it. Why wait? The ant approach is to make a conscious choice every day. When you think, I'd love a fancy coffee, but if I make one at home, I can put that $5 into my savings. That's a small, deliberate act of delayed gratification. When you do that, you prove to yourself that you are capable of prioritizing your long-term happiness over a short-term win. Lesson 2. The importance of an emergency fund. You must build a financial buffer or an emergency fund to protect yourself from the unexpected winters of life. For the grasshopper, the summer came to a sudden and brutal end with the first cold rain. He had no savings, no backup plan. When the emergency hit, he was completely vulnerable. The ants, however, had built a fortress. They didn't know exactly when winter would come or how harsh it would be, but they knew for sure that it would come. Their emergency fund, the storehouse full of grain, was their protection against that uncertainty, and that gave them peace of mind. So how does this apply to you? Ask yourself this. If you lost your main source of income today, how long could you survive? If your answer is not long, then you're living like the grasshopper. You're enjoying the summer of steady income but are completely exposed to the winter of a financial emergency. But life is full of winters. You might lose your job tomorrow. Your car might require a $2,000 repair. Or, God forbid, you might have a medical emergency. Building an emergency fund is the first and most important financial step you can take to protect yourself from catastrophe. Financial experts typically recommend saving 3 to 6 months' worth of essential living expenses in a separate, easily accessible savings account. This money is not for a vacation or a new TV. It's your do not touch except for real emergencies fund. Knowing that money is there transforms your relationship with money from one of fear to one of confidence. It allows you to sleep better at night, knowing that when your personal winter comes, and it will, you will be ready, just like the ant. Lesson 3. Understanding and respecting your personal risk tolerance. The third lesson is a more nuanced one, dealing with psychology. The grasshopper and the ant had fundamentally different worldviews, which we can call risk profiles. The grasshopper was an extreme risk-taker, though he didn't see it that way. He saw himself as an optimist, a believer in the eternal summer. But from a financial perspective, he was gambling everything on a single, incredibly risky assumption that the good times would never end. His entire financial plan, if you could even call it that, was based on hope. He was 100% invested in the summer forever stock, and when that stock crashed, he was wiped out completely. The ant, in contrast, had an extremely low risk tolerance, and she built her life to match that tolerance. She was what we would call risk-averse. She didn't operate on hope. She operated on history and evidence. She knew the sun would set and the seasons would turn. Her financial plan was built not on the best-case scenario, but on the worst-case scenario. She prepared for the winter she knew was coming, not the summer she hoped would last. For her, the risk of being caught unprepared in the cold was far greater than the risk of working hard during the summer. In the world of personal finance, you will be constantly presented with investment opportunities. Someone might tell you about a can't-miss cryptocurrency, a hot new stock, or a get-rich-quick scheme. The grasshopper in you might get excited by the potential for a massive, immediate reward. But before you jump in, you have to ask yourself, what is my risk tolerance? Am I truly comfortable with the possibility of losing this money? The wise approach is to know yourself. If you're like the ant, your financial plan should reflect that. Your granary should be filled with low-risk, stable investments like savings accounts, certificates of deposit, and government bonds. You will grow your wealth slowly and steadily, and you will sleep soundly at night. Sure, you will miss out on the exciting summers of huge, quick gains, but you will also be protected from the devastating winters of total loss. The key is to build a financial life that lets us sleep peacefully, not one that keeps you up at night worrying about the weather. Lesson 4. The necessity of a plan and consistent effort. Look at the difference in their approach to the future. The grasshopper had no plan. He woke up and did whatever felt good in the moment, with zero thought given to the future. As a result, his future wasn't something he built. It was something that simply happened to him. He was a passenger in his own life, not the pilot. On the other hand, the ant's plan was simple. Gather food while the gathering is good. This plan dictated her every action. It told her when to wake up, where to go, what to do, and how hard to work. It didn't matter if she felt tired or bored or if she'd rather be singing. And this consistency is key to how she built her security. This translates directly into the concept of paying yourself first and automating your savings. Don't rely on willpower to save whatever is left at the end of the month. Instead, decide on a specific percentage of your income, say 10% or 15%, that will go directly into savings or investments the moment you get paid. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your savings account. Do it online right now. Make it automatic. This is your gathering plan. It requires zero willpower and zero daily thought. The money moves before you even have a chance to miss it. You're following the ant's example. You're working at your job, and before you can be tempted by the grasshopper's song of immediate pleasure, a portion of your earnings is safely stored away in your personal granary. This consistent automatic effort, month after month and year after year, is the single most powerful way to build long-term wealth. Lesson 5. The consequences of financial ignorance and passivity. Our final lesson is the harshest, but perhaps the most important. A failure to prepare is a preparation for failure, and the consequences of financial passivity are both severe and unavoidable. This story doesn't have a happy ending for everyone. The grasshopper was left out in the cold, literally, alone, hungry, and facing an uncertain fate. His summer of fun came at a terrible, ultimate price. His financial ignorance and passivity had real, devastating consequences. The ant's no at the end is not just mean-spirited, it's a reflection of reality. She can't sacrifice the security of her entire colony, built on a summer of hard work, for one individual who chose not to prepare. This is a difficult but crucial lesson for your personal life. The world does not owe you a living. Your future self is not a separate person who will magically fix the problems created by your present self. If you spend your summer years, your 20s, 30s, and 40s, accumulating debt, spending everything you earn, and ignoring the need to save and invest, you are making a choice. You are choosing a comfortable present for your current self and condemning your future self to a difficult, stressful, and potentially impoverished winter. Every time you swipe a credit card for something you can't afford, you are the grasshopper, borrowing pleasure from the future. Every time you put off starting a retirement fund because you're young and have plenty of time, you are the grasshopper, ignoring the changing season. The story forces us to confront this directly. The grasshopper's desperate plea at the anthill's entrance is a plea many people make in real life, often too late. They beg for help from family, from the government, from anyone, because they did not prepare. This final lesson is a call to radical responsibility. It's a reminder that your financial security is ultimately your own responsibility. You can listen to the grasshopper's song of immediate gratification, or you can learn from the ant's example of diligent preparation. The choice you make today is a vote for the kind of future you will have. You're either building your granary, seed by seed, or you are singing your way toward a winter you are not ready to face. And that's the lesson hidden in the meadow. So while the sun is shining, build your granary, one seed at a time. Because when life's winter comes, preparation is what keeps you standing. If you enjoyed this story, give it a like and make sure you subscribe for more tales from the money tree.